for the man once known as hip-hop's wealthiest mogul. His business empire estimated at $1 billion by Forbes just 2 years ago. Now held without bond in a Brooklyn jail cell at the center of lawsuits, raids on his home, and now a scathing federal indictment. So how did one of the world's richest and most well-known rappers, known for a lifestyle of excess with yachts, private jets, sports cars, fur coats, and women, end up trading in his $50 million Miami mansion for a prison jumpsuit and a bunk with crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried?
Hey you, and welcome back to Rise and Crime. Today's story is one that, for decades, looked like the blueprint for success. A kid from Harlem, an intern turned mogul. A man who didn't just join the music industry, he bent it to his will. Private jets, white parties, billion-dollar deals, power that reached from hip-hop to Hollywood and beyond. But behind the shine, behind the champagne, behind the can't stop, won't stop persona, there were whispers, allegations, lawsuits, and eventually federal agents. This is the rise and the fall of Sean Diddy Combs. Sean John Combs was born on November 4, 1969, in Harlem, New York City. His early life wasn't wrapped in glamour, it was shaped by loss. When Sean was just 2 years old, his father, Melvin Combs, was shot and killed. Melvin had alleged ties to the drug trade in New York, connections that, according to various reports over the years, may have placed him in dangerous circles. His murder left Sean's mother, Janice Combs, to raise him alone. Janice worked multiple jobs to provide stability. By most accounts, she was driven and determined, and Sean watched that closely. Growing up in Mount Vernon, just north of the Bronx, young Sean developed a reputation early, ambitious, energetic, relentless. He attended the Mount St. Michael Academy, where he was known for his hustle, organizing dance parties, promoting events, finding ways to make money. Even as a teenager, he understood something crucial. Attention is currency. After high school, Sean attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. He didn't graduate, but Howard would shape him in another way. It was there that he began promoting parties on a larger scale. Not just small gatherings, huge events that packed venues. He had a knack for marketing, for creating hype, for making people feel like they were missing something if they weren't there. And that instinct, that would become the engine behind an empire. In 1990, Sean Combs landed an internship at Uptown Records in New York City. This was the moment. The door cracked open. He didn't treat it like an internship. He treated it like a takeover. Working under Andre Harrell, founder of Uptown, Sean quickly proved himself indispensable. He worked long hours. He inserted himself into projects. He had opinions, strong ones, about how artists should be marketed. He helped develop artists like Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. He leaned into a grittier, more street-conscious sound. Image mattered, style mattered, branding mattered. But Sean was not known for being subtle. He pushed, he demanded, he challenged. And in 1993, after rising quickly through the ranks, he was fired from Uptown Records. For some, that would have been the end of the dream. For Sean Combs, it was the beginning. Within months, he launched his own label, Bad Boy Records, and Bad Boy would change everything. In the early 1990s, hip-hop was evolving fast. The West Coast had a dominant presence. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Death Row Records. There was an energy out of Los Angeles that felt unstoppable. Sean wanted the East Coast back on top. He found his weapon in a young Brooklyn rapper named Christopher Wallace. The world would know him as the notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls had a voice that was both smooth and menacing, storytelling that painted vivid pictures of street life. Diddy, then still often called Puff Daddy, saw the potential instantly. In 1994, Biggie's debut album Ready to Die dropped under Bad Boy Records. It was a hit. Not just a hit, a statement. Bad Boy's brand became flashy but dangerous. Shiny suits, champagne, luxury, but with gritty street credibility. Sean wasn't just a label executive. He inserted himself into the music. He ad-libbed. He hyped tracks. He appeared in videos. He was everywhere. And then came the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. The mid-1990s saw tensions escalate between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. Media narratives fueled it. Lyrics escalated it. Personal egos amplified it. And at the center of the East Coast side, Sean Combs and the notorious B.I.G. In 1996, Tupac Shakur was shot and killed in Las Vegas. 6 months later, in March 1997, the notorious B.I.G. was murdered in Los Angeles. The killings remain officially unsolved, but the impact was seismic. Biggie's death devastated Bad Boy Records. For Sean, it was personal. He lost his biggest star and his friend. Shortly after Biggie's death, Diddy released I'll Be Missing You, a tribute featuring Faith Evans and 112. It became a global hit, and in a way, tragedy became momentum. Diddy stepped into the spotlight fully. His debut album, No Way Out, dropped in 1997. It won a Grammy. It sold millions. He wasn't just behind the scenes anymore. He was the star. The late 1990s and early 2000s were Diddy at full throttle. He rebranded himself repeatedly, Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to Diddy, each reinvention reinforcing that he controlled his own narrative. Bad Boy expanded. He launched clothing lines, most notably Sean John, which became a major fashion brand and even won the CFDA Menswear Designer of the Year award in 2004. He ventured into television, Making the Band, where audiences saw a demanding, sometimes ruthless executive persona. Cheesecake runs across New York, harsh critiques. You gotta want it. The image was clear. Diddy was a perfectionist, a boss, a mogul. He also entered the world of alcohol branding, partnering with Ciroc Vodka. That deal would later become one of his most lucrative business ventures. By the 2000s, Forbes regularly listed him among the wealthiest figures in hip-hop. He wasn't just an artist, he was an institution. But woven through that rise were moments, incidents.
Like Sean Puffy Combs and his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez are in trouble with the law. It all started with a shooting at a Midtown nightclub.
Looking rested despite 17 hours in police custody yesterday, Sean Puffy Combs held court, again proclaiming his innocence in a shooting that left 3 people wounded at Club New York.
I do not own a gun, nor did I possess a gun that night. I had nothing to do with a shooting in this club.
In 1999, Diddy was involved in a nightclub shooting at Club New York in Manhattan. 3 people were injured. He and then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez fled the scene, but were later stopped by police. Diddy was charged with weapons violations and bribery, though he was acquitted in 2001. The case brought intense scrutiny, but he emerged legally unscathed, and the machine kept moving. For years, Diddy's image existed in duality. Publicly, success, mentorship, legacy. Privately, at least according to later lawsuits, there were darker allegations. For a long time, those allegations stayed mostly in whispers, until 2023. In November 2023, singer Cassie Ventura, who had been in a long-term relationship with Diddy from around 2007 to 2018, filed a federal lawsuit against him. The allegations were explosive. Cassie accused Diddy of rape, physical abuse, sex trafficking, coercion, and years of control and violence. The complaint detailed alleged beatings, forced sexual encounters, surveillance, manipulation. Diddy denied the allegations, but within 24 hours the lawsuit was settled out of court. The speed of that settlement raised eyebrows, and then the floodgates opened. In the weeks and months that followed, multiple lawsuits were filed against Diddy by different individuals, both women and men, alleging sexual assault, abuse, trafficking, coercion, and misconduct spanning decades. Diddy denied all wrongdoing, but the public perception began to shift dramatically. Corporate relationships began to fracture, partnerships ended, awards were rescinded, institutions distanced themselves, and then came the raids. In March 2024, federal agents executed search warrants at Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Footage showed heavily armed officers entering the properties. News helicopters hovered overhead. The allegations had escalated beyond civil lawsuits. Federal authorities were reportedly investigating potential sex trafficking and other criminal offenses. Details were limited. But the optics were unmistakable. This wasn't just a celebrity scandal anymore. This was a federal case. Throughout 2024, reports continued to surface. Witnesses came forward publicly and anonymously. Former associates described environments of fear and control. Allegations painted a picture of parties that were not just lavish, but coercive. It's important to note, at this stage, many allegations were still claims within lawsuits and investigations. Diddy consistently denied the accusations through his legal team, but momentum was building. In September 2024, Sean Diddy Combs was arrested by federal authorities. He was charged in connection with an alleged sex trafficking and racketeering investigation. According to prosecutors, the charges stemmed from alleged conduct involving coercion, exploitation, and organized criminal activity spanning years. Diddy's legal team strongly denied the allegations, stating that he was innocent and would fight the charges. He was taken into custody. The image of the untouchable mogul, handcuffed, facing federal prosecution, sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. The indictment, according to public reporting at the time, alleged a pattern of behavior involving manipulation, intimidation, and exploitation. Prosecutors claimed that Diddy used his power, wealth, and influence to facilitate alleged illegal activities. Defense attorneys countered that the accusations were false, opportunistic, and financially motivated. As of early 2025, the legal process was ongoing. Pre-trial hearings began, motions were filed, evidence was contested, public debate raged online. Supporters argued that Diddy was being targeted. Critics argued that powerful men often avoid accountability for years, until they don't. The trial date loomed, and the legacy? It hung in the balance. When you look back at the rise, it's hard not to see the scale. A kid from Harlem, intern at Uptown, founder of Bad Boy, architect of careers that shaped hip-hop, entrepreneur worth hundreds of millions, cultural icon. For decades, Diddy symbolized ambition without apology. He preached hustle culture before it had a name. Can't stop, won't stop. But the fall, if history ultimately defines it that way, raises a deeper question about power. What happens when influence becomes insulation, when celebrity creates distance from consequence? The allegations against Diddy, whether ultimately proven in court or not, forced the public to re-examine a narrative that had long been accepted. Because sometimes the biggest stories aren't just about crime. They're about culture, about the systems that protect powerful figures, about the silence that surrounds them, and about what happens when that silence breaks. As the legal proceedings continue, Sean Combs remains legally presumed innocent unless proven guilty in court. That's critical. Allegations are not convictions. But the impact on his business empire, his public image, his legacy, has already been profound. Bad Boy Records once represented dominance. Now it's tied to controversy. The white parties that once symbolized glamour now carry a different undertone in hindsight. History has a way of rewriting itself, and the final chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. So what do we call this? A cautionary tale? A fallen empire? A story still unfolding? maybe all of the above. Because the rise was undeniable, and the fall, at least in reputation, has been staggering. From Harlem to Howard, from intern to mogul, from Grammy wins to federal indictments. Sean Diddy Combs built an empire. Whether that empire survives what comes next will be decided not by headlines, but by a courtroom, and we'll be watching. Thank you for joining me on Rise in Crime. If you found this deep dive compelling, make sure you like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what case you'd like covered next. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, every empire has a foundation. Sometimes you just don't see the cracks until it's too late.